Hey guys, alright, tonight here's my gear. Wolfman Razor WR1. This is my 54 gap. Zenith Silvertip P10, I believe, is the model number, and I'm really enjoying this brush. Highly recommend it. Inside the razor, we're going to put this blade, the Nacet, used it yesterday, on the 46 gap WR1. So a little bit of a comparison today with the young version of the Nacet. And then this is a new base to me. It's a used soap, Ferox. We'll talk more about it in a little bit. Soft Hearts series from Barrister and Mann. I did scoop it because the scent notes are very herbal and spicy seasoning that I don't like from the tub, and so I'm going to scoop it in case I have to sell it. There's a few people out there who enjoy it if the soap has been scooped instead of brush loaded, and so I'm kind of catering to that. And sometimes it's fun to do anyway because you know exactly how much soap to put down. You don't have to guess about how much stirring to do, how much loading to do on the puck. All right, now I've had the brush soaking for a few minutes. It's a silver tip. I've been using boars a lot, and those do require soaking prior to the shave, at least for 99.9% of the people out there. That's how they like it. If you like a lot of backbone, maybe you don't want to soak it. Or at least you don't want to soak the whole bristle. I have heard of some people only soaking the tip, half of the bristle that's got the tips on it. And then they get the backbone from the base of the shaft. They can get more scrub that way. But mostly people soak the whole thing for several minutes. But with silver tips, I usually find that I soak them for about that long anyway, but it's not as necessary it is with the boar brushes. I have scooped out a 1/4 teaspoon. So let us put that into the bowl. But first, we're going to put this blade, before I get my hands wet, put this little Nacet. And then no, my big marathon Nacet is not yet done. I just am pausing for to be able to use a blade for evaluation purposes. I don't want to put my old Nacet in it. I got to use something relevant to most of you guys out there. So that'll be something that's maybe younger than 12 uses or something like that. And there we go. And this head is kind of a brushed finish, and I'm kind of glad about that. I think it looks nice for one thing. And number two, it's the only way I can tell the WR1 54 from the 46. My 46 is a polished finish. All right, I made a list of the attributes, the scent notes, and we'll talk about that as I'm working up the lather. Okay, so yep, now let's press that sample into the bowl. The Soft Hearts series, if you didn't know, was created. It's a very limited run series, and Will at Barrister and Mann had created it. He brought it back from the development stages. He was working on his next soap base, and it would later become Excelsior, his current soap base. And he had one candidate that he pushed out to all of his testers, and some of them just really liked it. He ended up going with Excelsior, which is a little more budget friendly. It lasts longer for the user. It not as soft, and I think that's where the name Soft Hearts came from. I'm rinsing my fingers off. So I pressed the very soft soap into the bottom. You can even see the moisture in the soap glisten there. And so the development number was PP8, and it just really got a following. Even after Excelsior was released, some of the testers who experienced PP8 were just raving about it, and so looks like he brought it back in the form of Soft Heart. All right, now let me get my face wet. Now from the dry tub, I get a bunch of scents that I don't like, and that's why I scooped it. I get the rosemary, I get sage, and I get the thyme. I don't like any of those to be a dominant part of the scent, and unfortunately that's what I'm getting in the scent. And I think that's probably why I researched Ferox, and I didn't put it on my list to try to find. But then when it came time, there was this a lot of soaps. It was where there were several soaps and splashes involved, and it was a good deal. I went ahead and got it, and this was in there. And at the time I forgot that I didn't really want to try the Ferox, at least based on the wording of the description. However, I thought, hey, and so I was excited, and then I realized what it was, but I thought, hey, even still, I'll get the opportunity to try the Purple Possum 8. That was the code word, PP8. I'll get to try. And so we'll see how the Soft Heart goes. All right. Other notes in it, according to the write-up. As I shake most of the water out of my brush. Grapefruit, tea tree. Now I do get some of the tea tree. Vetiver. And that's about it. Rosemary, sage, and thyme. Now, the kind of the story behind the scent, and this is one of the first ever seasonal scents that Barrister and Mann ever produced. So it's got a little bit of a history with the company, a little bit of the development heritage. Oh, the tea tree oil is kind of getting stirred up. I mean, not the oil, but the tea tree scent is really coming up and hitting my nose. Kind of refreshing. The story behind the scent is that forest, rich, heavy green, herby forests, kind of what he's going for. Now, to me, I get it's almost like oh yeah, see now the tea tree, maybe a hint of the grapefruit. That is stepping up and really improving the scent for me. I always like to tell you how it smells dry, because it's fun to see how things change. Some soaps smell exactly the same, dry and wet. Now here's how everything's developing. It's still sitting up high on the walls, unless I bring it down. So we're going to keep adding water. Also, when Will was telling us about the Soft Hearts, the Purple Possum, he said the performance was, I think they said pretty much like Excelsior, except for maybe this may have better moisturizing capabilities. But since that is not a value of mine, I never made it a big priority to try to snag up a Soft Heart. So that's 2 teaspoons. I like the way the grapefruit and the tea tree are coming out more. Mainly the tea tree, I think. And see, that is why we still try things even though they may not have a scent right up that we like. Because you never know how your nose is going to perceive it. You never know what the percentage is going to be like, which parts of it you're going to notice more than maybe somebody else. I chose this nice soft brush to accent the Soft Hearts base. It's a good brush so far. I've only used it a few times, but I've been really impressed. I like soft brushes with medium backbone. Nice flow through. Now, look at that. Let's bring it down and kind of check the stretch. We don't have time. Now look, see, he's caught in holding himself up very easily. And knowing Barrister and Mann, and how he is just so good at putting out quality products, I'm going to proceed with pushing some more water into this. Since it's a pretty soft soap, water is the actual first ingredient. I would not be surprised if I would have used less water than normal. All right, let's bend you down to the lather cam angle. Three teaspoons of water in it. Not tons of, oh, now look at that. Look at that right there. That was nice. That was nice. A big old long, very hydrated, elastic stretch there. Cool. Let's stop there. So we'll see how the Ferox treats me during the shave, how the scent feels. Kind of doing a little, using the waste to give myself a little face wash before the actual lathering up. All right, it's time for an aside. A little personal Sugar Daddy Shaves aside. I have several of these, I think they're 30 ounce, stainless steel vacuum sealed tumblers. And I'm not going to spend tons of money on those Yeti brand because these Ozark Trail ones from Walmart for about $8, I bought them on sale, work just as well. They work great. What I like about them is that I don't like frigid water, and so I don't want to pile tons of ice, but I also don't want lukewarm water. And this, with its excellent insulative properties, I can take a big old cup of water, throw a few cubes of ice in it, and it keeps it at my happy temperature for several hours. I'm a big fan of that. And that helps me to drink a lot of water during the day. And so I've got tons of these around, but you know what? They all are dinged up. There you go. You can see that right there. Down here. Because when I get in the car, I take them with me out to drive. In the summer, it's great to have a cool beverage, right? I reach up as I'm getting in the car. I put them on the hood, the top of the car. And then I get in. I'm usually then distracted by my kids as we're about to go out and do an errand or something. So I forget it's on the car. Usually it is chock full of water or some kind of beverage. And so I pull out of the driveway. I'm usually pretty smooth going out of the driveway. And so I don't hear anything. And then as I back out and then start heading down the road, clang, clang, we hear it on top of the car. We see the water flow down the back of the windshield. Or a couple times I've actually gotten out of the neighborhood onto the street before we heard the clang. And so these marks are road scuff marks. And so I've tried to keep them out of my cups, but pretty much all of my cups have those marks. Oh man, that's just, yeah, I get distracted and I forget they're up there. All right, face is wet, so let us, now this guy, he's nice and soft and he's got long loft, relatively speaking, and so he opens up really wide during the shave. Plenty of bloom, probably more than I need. Now I wonder if this tea tree will act like a cooling agent. You know how tea tree oil in your shampoo tingles, things like that. Well, it's not as bad as I thought. The dry. Now, I may have forgotten to rinse the water out of my goatee, and so unfortunately I'm dealing with a little bit of that. And who knows, maybe soft heart base can't be pushed as hard with water. Yeah, see, it's so thin that it's kind of flying off my brush. Interesting. I would not have, like I said, I assumed that, Will would design a soap that could handle tons of water. So let's just get some more. Now I'm sure it's going to give me a nice slick surface here. Interesting. I might actually go back to the puck. Nah, and that would kind of mess up my puck. So maybe I won't do anything. Maybe I'll just make the best with what I have. My first impression is that I won't be keeping the soap around because it may be better than what I was expecting. I'm not getting a lot of that seasoning right now. The rosemary, sage, and thyme are being held in check, I think, by that tea tree. So I can see, I think that's a really neat way to do things. Now, I smelled it before I knew that it was intended to be a foresty scent. And to me, it's not. If you come at it with that in your mind, then I could see how you'd get there. Because it is very herbal and woody without being woody. Herbal, natural. I don't smell a lot of green, and that was definitely part of the notation. They said it was a heavy green scent, but I'm not getting a lot of green. Of course, perception is a funky thing with noses. That could be there, and I may just not be perceiving it. People are all different. I think the grapefruit was probably a nice touch to give a little bit of flavor to the tea tree, keep it from being quite too much like a tea tree shampoo. And so I can see some intelligent touches within this, and I can definitely see how some people would really enjoy it. But I don't think I'm one of them. All right. Especially when there are just so many other great soaps out there. Now, this razor, this blade is doing better in the 54 than it did in the 46. You want to tell me why? I've got a clue. I'll share it with you in a minute. See if you can figure it out. I don't know for sure, but I've got a theory. Yeah, see how this is dripping off my off my face. I guess with the soft hearts, you just can't push as much water into it unless you want this kind of drippiness, and I don't want this level of drippiness. Feels good though. It's definitely laying down a level of moisture on my face. Feels good. To me, this scent feels less like I'm outdoors and more like I'm hanging out inside of a spice shop in the cooking section. That's the vibe I'm getting. Unfortunately, I don't think that's what he was going for. All right. Oh, you know what? Since this lather is a little bit on the wet side, let's take away the excess water from my skin, and that'll help us out a little bit. I got a nice slick pass there, and so you don't have to have a big opaque layer of lather on your skin. For things to work well. All right, so here's my theory as to why this 54 may be behaving better than the 46. I have definitely seen many cases where a blade is very different between the first shave and the second one. And even the first might be different than the second, and the second different than this, the third different from the second and the first as well. I mentioned it the other day that what happens is the little burr on the end of the blade left there by manufacturing wears away, so you're left with a smoother shaving edge. That's my theory. And so in a way, to accurately compare the 54 and the 46 Wolfman gaps, I'll need to get the blade into a stable period. Within the first 3 shaves is too variable. The blade changes so much, relatively speaking, that you can't compare shave 1 and 2 really. At least, and be fair. All right, rinse. Now, since I don't like these specific herbs, matter of fact, this is like an anti-sugar daddy cocktail of scents in regards to those 3 herbs, and I'm definitely not a fan of the tea tree. I like it. My disdain for it is more of just a minor dislike, where my negative feelings toward those 3 spices I mentioned is much more severe. Well, I mean, come on, it's a scent. It's not severe, but relatively speaking. I really don't like these in terms of shave soap, but the tea tree is just not something. There are just so many better things. So as I was asking myself a question, if you were on a desert island and this is the only soap you had, would you be happy or okay with it, or would you just not shave? Would you just not enjoy your shaves? Now, before I answer that, look how runny this is. But you know what? I've got excellent slickness. So this is a performance soap. It may not be able to take as much water as some of his other bases, but I tell you what, it shaves like a champ, even when you've really got a wet lather for this base. I feel very protected. And there we go. We got the job done. Let us just paint on a little bit more to hit this side stroke again. Yeah, I can see how this lather would be. I mean, it feels like there's just moisturizers out the yin-yang on this one. And that's not really my cup of tea, but why not have it every once in a while? All right, rinse. Now, perhaps a post-shave product like Whiskey Woods from Club BaM, and maybe a sandalwood balm, or the Perazzo Red, which is a nice sandalwood scent, might be a really nice follow-up after this type of scent. Scent strength during the shave, unfortunately for my nose, was about a 5 out of 10. It was medium, it was always available. And that's where I usually like my scents, and I'm really glad that Will normally does a good job of having his scents at a good strength, at least according to my preferences. But unfortunately with this one, it just wasn't my bag. So let's just see how this other thing is going to do in terms of scent. This is Intrepid Mann from Stirling, and it's a new one, original Santal from what? Creed is the scent this was inspired from. I got the cologne from this. I got it on sale. I bought it used because I tried a sample and I kind of liked it. It's very bright. There's not a whole lot of sandalwood in here, but it's kind of a bright, really good in the morning. It kind of resembles Baker Street and Sharp Dressed Man. So it's got to have some common elements there. And I did spray the EDT on myself earlier today, and it started out really bright and zesty. And I was kind of unhappy about that because it was just too close to Baker Street, which is too bright for me as a night shaver. But it settled down. That pungency did settle down into something that I kind of enjoyed. So I'm going to look forward to trying that on a regular basis to see how I like it consistently over time. Yeah, that's a nice transition because this doesn't have too many herbs and stuff in it. And it does actually have kind of fresh and green in this. So I think that does actually transition pretty well. Well, pretty cool. All right. I'm going to clean my gear. Oh, and you might have guessed, but pretty much used up all the lather. I mean, I can scrape together just a little bit, but that wasn't, it looked okay. You saw how elastic that looked, right? I've got other soap bases where they look that elastic and they don't wash out quite as easily as this one did. That's just the base. You know, it's got moisturizers. It's heavy on the moisturizers, and so I've seen that happen before. So I'll just have to run this one. I'm not going to push it as hard with the water as some of my other more soapy soaps. So with that 1/4 teaspoon of soap and 3 teaspoons of water, we ended up with a lather that was too wet. So I'll note that for next time. I might try to trade this because the Soft Hard series is very limited. I don't exactly know the soaps that are in the Soft Hard series. I know that they've done a couple that Hallows, I believe, right? They were going to release in Soft Heart. I could be wrong. There was something. It was going to be in Soft Heart, but I already had it in 2 other iterations, and so I didn't want to duplicate. But we'll see. We'll see what's out there. All right. As far as the razor and the blade go, it did end up to be a smoother shave than when this blade a day or two ago was in the 46 gap. So what I may do now, switch back to the 46 with this blade and just alternate. And so as the blade changes, I should be able to notice it a little better. And as we piggyback each use of the blade in, I can know that the blade is growing and changing and getting smoother, and then I'll have a chance for each head to kind of be along the route there in pretty equal and small segments. Well, there we go. We're all good. Yeah, the Intrepid Mann really did work well. I think the zestiness that's inside it is akin to the tea tree, and so they're playing really well together, and it is settling down now, so I'm cool with that. Yeah, that's an interesting. I haven't had too many of the balms like that be so different. Have that punch in the beginning, that top note that's probably very volatile, and so it evaporates quickly, and then you're left with something else afterwards, and this one definitely does that. So that'll be fun to see if I notice it, when I use it. All right, well, everything worked really well. The Zenith is not the softest of knots yet. I got a feeling the person who had this might have treated it with some conditioner, and so the bristles aren't absorbing water quite like they should, but it's very soft. It's not as soft as some, but it's a nice middle of the road, and I definitely like the backbone and big old splay. And it's not a big knot, it's just got a big splay. And these little ridges around, I'm getting used to them. They don't really bother me too much. Matter of fact, they kind of help you to hold on to it, or at least know where it is as you're using the brush. I think that's all we have. I'm really happy for the balm. I think that's going to be a nice addition. So I'm glad they came out with that scent. So this is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and that has been today's shave. And I sure hope there's been something in this one that's good for you. It's going to help you out. You take care, and good night.